Okay, we have another case submitted here, and in this particular case, it's a little bit of an interesting case. The patient has existing bridges in the upper right and in the upper left-hand side. The terminal teeth on these bridges, the abutment teeth, are needing to be removed due to infection, decay, and the various things that we see happen to endo-treated bridge teeth over time. And the question is, we'd like to save the anterior terminal abutment, the anterior abutments on these tooth number, let's call this number 6 and number 12. And the submitter would like to save those teeth. And the treatment plan right now is for a implant retained um, partial and overpartial with the potential of down the road going to a fixed prosthesis. So in a situation like this, what we do want to do is we do want to kind of plan the implant in an ideal place through a tooth so that if we ever wanted to use it as a uh, fixed bridge, implant bridge, implant and abutment, we could, but we also want to plan it so that we can do the overpartial at this time. So let's go ahead and take a peek. In this particular case, the submitter is a CEREC user, so they did plan the CEREC data, and everything looks fantastic there. So I would like to go ahead and start with site number 5. So we'll go here to the implant align view. And one of the things that we look at, what I like to do for overpartial, and this is how this is planned, is it's planned a little bit lingual. And I like to do that because one, you have the space of the implant, then you have the space of the locator abutment or O-ring or whatever abutment you're using, and then the housing that goes on top of it. So by the time all of that is put in, I don't want to thin out the aesthetic area of the partial tooth so much. So we have a tendency to plan this a little bit to the lingual. Now the negative in that is that when we go to make the final restoration, then we have, if we do a fixed bridge, is then we have the potential for a little bit of unhygienic ponic. So this implant is planned extremely well. Um, a little bit to the lingual as intended. You know, ideally maybe we would go right about there. Actually, instead, this is a good lesson here. Instead of taking it from the head of the implant, I would actually take it from the apex. And the reason I take it from the apex is we're pretty, I want to use the word thin here, but we're close to our edge, but we have more space here to the palate. So I would have a tendency to take this from the palate a little bit and then from there so that we maintain more bone there. But again, for the overpartial, we'll leave it kind of right where it is. The bigger issue I see with this particular case is in the 360 view. Again, you know, our occlusal plane, everything looks fantastic here. When we go to a 360 view, we start seeing this adjacent tooth number 6 pretty well, and we can see right here that we are quite a bit close to that tooth. Now, part of the problem is we're trying to keep this in line with the arch form for the overpartial here, but we can see here there's been some root movement of this tooth number 6, so that's taken up the space. So really in this particular case, we really do need to move this implant over, maybe about so much, and then we can tilt it and make the compromise of having it right there so that we have enough space away from the adjacent tooth, but yet we're still relatively centered in the tooth itself. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's go ahead and take a look at site number 12. Again, this implant was originally planned for 11.5 millimeter implant, slightly into the sinus. I made a decision to go ahead and go to a 10 millimeter implant just to avoid having to do the sinus graft there. Spacing wise, we're in a good position, slightly lingual as we would like for the partial, and plenty of distance away. In fact, if we wanted to, we could probably even move this a little bit closer to that adjacent tooth. The bigger question I have on this particular one is the the ability to place this immediately. One, in taking this tooth out, site number 14, let's call it, we're going to have a significant bony defect. There's some infection here. We can see that it's encroaching upon the implant space there. This may be a situation where I would probably recommend to have this tooth taken out, the site cleaned and healed, and then come back and place this implant. I just don't want to take the risk of this implant failing because of anything going on with this tooth right here. So again, thank you for submitting the plan, and hopefully that is helpful.